Should you sell your home to an iBuyer such as Opendoor, Offerpad, or Orchard? We're going to get into the pros and cons of selling to an iBuyer. What's going on, guys? Marcus Rankin here, your Houston, Texas realtor. And in today's video, I want to go over some pros and cons to consider whenever you're thinking about selling your property to an iBuyer. There's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons to weigh, and there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons to using a traditional real estate agent as far as getting the property on the market. And hopefully in this video, you guys can come to a conclusion which one makes the most sense for your circumstance. If you want a little bit more information about this, what you can do is reach out to me at marcusrankinrealtor@gmail.com or call or text 713-474-0059 and we'll get you guys taken care of. So it's interesting because iBuyer started coming into the marketplace around 2014 and they were introduced here to Houston in about 2018. And I remember I got a flyer from Opendoor and it was a new concept, but I thought it was a fantastic concept if you think about it, because there was a real pain point in the real estate industry and these folks came along and made a solution for it. So there are some great benefits to using these folks, and let's get into the pros and cons. The first pro of using an iBuyer is, of course, the convenience. Now, it's interesting because if you've ever sold a property, you know that it can become a hassle. I mean, as far as getting the property ready for sale, staging the property, taking professional photos, having folks coming in and out the property, making sure that the property's tidy whenever people are coming in, and sometimes the unpredictability about, who's coming in. Are they going to actually show up? Am I doing all this for no reason? So iBuyers come around and say, hey, listen, we'll eliminate all that and give you the option to go ahead and just go through the convenience of selling it directly to us. Now, that's a fantastic benefit if you ask me, because anybody that has gone through the home selling process knows how tedious it can be and how frustrating it can be. So if the iBuyers came around and said, hey, listen, we'll go ahead and take that off of your entire plate, of course, that is going to be a pro. The second pro of using an iBuyer is the time frame. Now, some iBuyers can close in as little as 8 days all the way up to 90 days, and they can facilitate with you making that move. Now, that's great because a lot of people that are either moving out of state or moving to a different property, and they want to match up the timing with that next property so they don't have to have that gap of time where they don't have a property. And this can be a solution for the timing. So if you have a property that you're looking to move into and you need about 45 days to 60 days to move into it, they'll work with you hand in hand to match up the closing. Now, you can also do this in a traditional market, but this just creates a little bit more balance for you, so that way you know exactly when you're going to close. The third pro is certainty. These are large corporations that are buying properties either to just put them back on the market and sell them, or to just rent them out in hopes that it appreciates over a long period of time. Well, the certainty is that they have the funds to purchase the property. A lot of challenges that happen throughout the home selling process is that, can the buyer actually get financing? Are they actually going to be able to close on time? Is there something that was overlooked during the pre-qualification process that may come up during underwriting that may prevent the property from selling? This can create that solution for you where you know for sure that 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to close in the time frame that they give you. There are some things that may come up, but most of the time you're going to be able to close on time. So that way you have that peace of mind that you're going to be able to close on that next property. You're going to get the funds from this one and you're actually going to move. So those are the 3 main pros of actually using iBuyers. And now let's get into the cons. Now, my first con is the requirements. Now, certain iBuyers have different qualifications of what they consider. If you have something where it might be in a certain area where they don't operate in, it's a certain price point, or it's a certain property that is in need of extensive repairs, they may not purchase your property. If you notice in Houston, they like to stick within a certain price range. It's usually between $200,000 to $400,000. Sometimes you'll see them go up a little bit more, but that's kind of their niche price range because they know they can put the property right back on the market and get it sold without any hassles. So you want to make sure that your property fits this requirement, and you can do so by going online and doing some research and submitting your property for an instant offer. Now, my second con, which could have been the first one, is the offer price. Now, keep in mind, whenever you're selling to an iBuyer, what you're really paying for is convenience. I always like to think of it as a convenience store, right? If you go into a convenience store and you get a bottle of water and some candy, you know that you're going to probably pay double the price than actually going into a large grocery store or a Walmart, having to go all the way to the back to get the item. You know you're paying for convenience. So if that's the case, the only way that these iBuyers are really going to make money is by offering you a lower price than what would be had on the open market. Now, depending on your circumstances and depending on your equity position, this may not be too big of a deal. You may end up leaving $10, $20, $30, $50,000 on the table. If it's one of those things where the property is paid off, you really don't need the equity, you just want to get rid of it for certain investment purposes or for certain situations, this may not be too much of a factor for you. But keep in mind that the offer you're going to get is almost certainly not as much as you're going to get on an open market. And the third con of selling to an iBuyer is the fees. There's a lot of misconceptions out there is that if you go ahead and sell to an iBuyer, you're not going to have to pay realtor fees. Whereas they don't call it realtor fees, they may call it a convenience fee or just fees that they charge. And that can range anywhere from 4, 5 to 7.5% before you get to closing. So if you couple that with the lower offer price plus the fees, you may end up leaving thousands of dollars on the table than you would by going on the traditional market. Now, depending on your circumstances, like I mentioned, it really comes down to personal preference. Some folks do not care if they're going to leave some money on the table if they can certainly close in a time frame that they want, so that way they can have that peace of mind. And if that's you, it may make sense going to an iBuyer. But if you're really wanting to maximize your proceeds and get every single dollar from your property sale, you may want to consider selling it on the open real estate market. All right, guys, so that's it for this pros and cons video of selling to an iBuyer. These are going to be the top pros and cons. There's others that you need to weigh, in fact. And if you want an additional list of pros and cons, you can email me at marcusrankinrealtor@gmail.com or call or text 713-474-0059. If you're thinking about selling your property here in the Houston metro area or anywhere surrounding it, you can shoot me an email, send me a text, and we can see which one makes the most sense for you and get you guys taken care of. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video.